What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome to the very first episode of the breakdown for Infinite Warfare. If you guys are new to this series, I've done it for the past few years. What I do is I take subscriber gameplay and I break it down and I analyze it for you to help everybody improve and learn something from that gameplay. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking a gameplay down from my girlfriend, Enya. I had to start somewhere and she offered a gameplay up, so we're going to break down one of her gameplays. I will leave a link to her Twitch channel down below if you want to go check her out. But if you do want to submit gameplay for this series, just stick around to the end of the video. I'll explain it all there. It has changed a little bit from previous years. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so let's get right into the breakdown. And first up, we always have a look at the class that they used in the gameplay. And Enya, I just happen to know, is going for a nuke. She's going for her first nuke, so she's been using her nuke setup quite often. And this is her nuke setup right now. It's the NV4 Fallout with Quick Draw, Suppressor, and Stock. We've got Ghost, Dexterity, Scavenger, and Dead Silence. This is honestly a flawless nuke class. There's nothing wrong with this at all. Sometimes I'll swap out Dead Silence for Hardwired just so I don't get like counter UAV'd when I have an advanced UAV up or something. But really, there's nothing wrong with this class whatsoever if you're going for a nuke. So let's get right into the gameplay portion of this. And her opening route was nice here. You'll notice her aim throughout this gameplay is not flawless by any means. It's a little bit off. She was saying this was actually her first game on for the day, so it's kind of excusable. But at the same time, if you are looking to have really solid aim when you first get into the game, like when you first log on to the game for the day, I highly recommend doing my accuracy drill, which I'll try to link down below. That is just great for warming up and making sure you're on point when you get into the game. But right there, that was the situation I want to take a look at here. That was using one of my map's exposed spots, but not very well. Like, she jumped up on the railing there, and she checked that spot. She had the advantage in that gunfight, and then she strafed right out of cover and out into the open, and she almost lost that gunfight because of it, but she still came out on top in that situation. She would have been better off just standing on top of that railing in that spot that I have for you guys, and she would have been able to pick that guy off without even taking damage, I think. Now right here, great use of the outside wall run here, just exposes less of yourself when you come around that corner, because that guy actually would have had a perfect line of sight on her if she would have gone for the inside wall run, so that allowed her to get that kill. She takes cover here nicely, and a great use of phase shift. Now that is a pretty big distance to cover with phase shift, and that guy very easily could have ended up killing her, but it did end up working out in her favor, which was excellent. Now skipping ahead just a little bit, she's pushing on the flank over towards the enemies like this, and this is a mistake I noticed right here. She checks towards middle while exposing her right side to this entire area where it's very often that you'll have an enemy sitting behind one of those pieces of cover. The better move in this situation is to hug up close to that rocket. You can still check center from there and it cuts off that line of sight from the right side. Once you check middle, then you go around and you can check this area here. If there had been an enemy set up on one of those pieces of cover, there's no chance she would have survived. Now, as she pushes in towards the enemy spawn, you'll notice she only has 11 bullets, and I like her patience here. Now, if she would have had more than 11 shots, I'm sure she would have taken the shot on that guy, but she was thinking, if I kill that guy, I have to go get his scavenger pack over there. So instead, she also noticed this other guy on the mini-map up in the window, and she's like, oh, okay, we'll just go and shoot this guy in the back. Unfortunately, he turned around, and she wasn't expecting him to turn around suddenly like that. So unfortunately, she did lose the gunfight, but it was good decision-making at the time. The one note I'll make though is it might have been a good idea to use phase shift at some point in this situation to get that ammo and continue your streak. But like I said, it was good decision making at the time. It was just a bit unfortunate that that enemy decided to turn around. Now as she pushes around this way, I really like that she's checking her corners, she's pre-aiming corners, and I love that she drop shotted in this situation. I feel like the drop shot is very underrated in this game. Like, of course, it's nowhere near Modern Warfare 2 levels where you drop shot in every single gunfight and you're almost guaranteed to win it. But people don't usually expect it, it seems, and it can be very effective in situations like that. Skipping ahead a little bit again, right here she's challenging this guy across the way, which is totally fine with an NV4, but she takes damage. I love that she took cover, but it was unnecessary for her to use phase shift. I think she kind of used it as a panic button, but she didn't need to. She had taken cover, she was safe. Skipping ahead once again, she's pushing with her teammates towards the enemy spawn around the flank like this, and she handles this very well. She's pre-aiming, she comes around here nice and slow, she takes her gunfights very, very well until this point right here, and this is something that I do sometimes as well. I get a little bit of tunnel vision, like I just gotta finish my kill. I'm already aiming at him, I'll just finish him off, and then I'll deal with the other situation that's happening right now. She had plenty of time in that scenario to try and take cover, to activate phase shift. She had time once she first started taking damage to do something about it, but you could tell she was just thinking, I just got to finish this kill first. And sometimes you just got to let that kill go and survive the situation, which she didn't do, unfortunately. Getting to the next situation here, she approached this very well from middle. She knew her teammates were on the left side, so therefore the enemies are on the right side. She jumped down to the point where she still has cover, which is great because I don't even do that most of the time. I usually just jump right out in the open there. And then she saw that there was 3 enemies and she used phase shift flawlessly here. A lot of people use phase shift just to escape, but a lot of people don't realize you can use it very, very aggressively as well, like she did, and she was able to pick up some free kills. Now right here, coming around this corner, this is just target prioritization. Obviously, as she was coming on this wall run, it would have been a better choice to shoot the guy that was looking at her compared to the guy that didn't even see her, but that's the kind of thing where it's a snap decision that you have to make instantly. And a lot of the times you'll just make the wrong choice. And I'm sure she knew it immediately after it happened. She probably thought to herself, okay, should have picked the other guy instead of this guy first. And that's just stuff that you just have to recognize and keep learning from as you play the game. I still do this myself sometimes, although I have noticed myself improving because I'm recognizing these situations more and more often. And if you keep at it, it will just become muscle memory to snap on to the proper target every single time. Now, as she comes towards the enemy's flank here, I love how she approaches. She took damage, and she just stayed calm, took cover, got a reload in, didn't panic or freak out there. She didn't try and challenge a gunfight. She knew she was going to lose. And then once she healed up, she went for the flank, and it worked out very, very well for her here. That was just an excellent move. But right there, she got a little bit cocky, I think, and she challenged while she was still hurt, or she at least checked a very common spot where it was very likely there were going to be enemies just sitting there because they almost always are sitting there. And she died. It would have been much better off healing up first and then checking that common spot. Getting into the next situation, she's picking a few kills off right here, and these 2 guys rush her. I like that she stood her ground here and just won those gunfights. The second guy wasn't ready for her, and then she dropped down out of the way because it could be possible the third guy was coming. She healed up before making any sort of a move, and right here is also a key decision point that I really like that she did. She took damage, she did see where the guy was, so maybe she could have challenged him, but she made the smart move and just got out of there. When you get into a situation like that where you realize the odds are stacked against you, just get out of there. And that's something that a lot of people fail to do, and it holds a lot of people back. You don't have to be greedy. If you aren't feeling confident in a situation, just get out of there and you can attack from a different angle. Now coming up right here is something that's very subtle that a lot of people wouldn't notice, and it would have affected how she made her decisions in this situation. But you'll notice a teammate of hers just spawned like directly in front of her over there. And this means that the enemies are no longer in this area. That is a safe area, and the other direction is what you have to worry about. Now, she eventually did catch on to this, but it was a little bit too late. I just wanted to point out that exact moment where she could have figured that out a little bit earlier and better prepared herself for that situation. It's a fairly high level thing to do, and it's very easy to miss, especially in the heat of the moment. But it is something that you can pick up on, and you always have to be aware of where your teammates are spawning, because that can very easily give you an indication of where the enemies could be coming from. So the gameplay is coming towards an end here, so we're going to wrap up the breakdown section of this. And I just want to point out she had an excellent game. She led the lobby. She ended up going 32-13, and they won by 1 single point, which was just excellent. So she managed to carry her team to victory there, which was great. But let's get into how you guys can submit a gameplay for a future episode. I'm going to go into a lot of detail with it right here. What I'm looking for in a gameplay, it has to be at least 720p in quality, and it can't be taken from a phone or anything like that. It does have to be HD gameplay. I'm not going to be uploading anything less than HD, so make sure it's HD. If you can do 1080p 60 frames per second, I would love that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that because I realize not everybody has access to capturing that kind of quality. So if you can capture a gameplay like that, the process for submitting this for a future episode, which keep in mind I get tons of submissions, so I can't guarantee that if you submit a gameplay, I will analyze it. Once you have a submission for me, upload it to YouTube, set it as unlisted, so instead of private or public, you set it to unlisted, and then send a link to that gameplay to the email address that I left in the description below. Now keep in mind this is a different email address than I was using last year. Last year, I was actually not very smart about it. I used my business email address, and that got a little bit annoying, kind of having that spammed with a bunch of gameplay submissions when I was also dealing with business emails. So this year, I made a new email address just for breakdown gameplays. So send it to that email address that's linked below in this video. And if I feel like it's something that'll suit the series very well, then I just might break it down in a future episode. One other thing to keep in mind as far as the gameplays that I'm looking for, I know a lot of people love to show off with their amazing, flawless gameplays and stuff like that, and I might analyze some of those, but I find it's also very helpful to look at mistakes. So I tend to look for average to below average or maybe slightly above average, somewhere in the average sort of realm of gameplays are what I tend to like to analyze, because then people can relate to what's going on more often. Like I said though, this doesn't mean that I'm never going to analyze an amazing gameplay. It's just I tend to prefer those average to below average gameplays. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode of The Breakdown. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you send those submissions out, and I'll talk to you guys next time.